Today, we're going to dive into one of my absolute favorite ideas in all of math. It's this beautiful, powerful concept from way back in the 17th century called the method of infinite descent. And it's all about proving that some things, well, they aren't just hard, they're genuinely impossible. So think about that for a second. How do you actually prove something can never happen? Not just that it's super unlikely, but that it is fundamentally, logically impossible. Like, say, proving an equation has zero whole number solutions. Where do you even start with something like that? Well, you start with this brilliant little bit of intellectual judo. You actually assume for a second that it is possible. And then you show how that one little assumption leads to a complete paradox, an impossible, endless free fall. It's kind of like proving a ladder can't exist by showing it has no bottom rung to stand on. To really get this, we have to talk about the man who perfected it, the incredible 17th century mathematician Pierre de Fermat. You see, he didn't just stumble upon this technique. He formalized it, he named it, and believe me, he was incredibly proud of it. And we can hear it straight from the man himself. In a letter, he basically laid it all out. He's saying, look, if having a solution forces you to have a smaller solution, and that smaller one forces an even smaller one, and so on, to infinity, you've got a problem, because you just can't have an endless chain of shrinking positive whole numbers. It's impossible. Okay, so here's the formal definition, the method of infinite descent. It's all built on this really simple truth that mathematicians call the well-ordering principle. Now that sounds fancy, but all it means is that you can't keep finding smaller and smaller positive whole numbers forever. Eventually you're going to hit the number 1 and you have to stop. Fermat's method uses this super simple fact to completely demolish a faulty assumption. And what's so cool is that it gives us this perfect 5-step recipe for proving the impossible. First, you just pretend a solution exists. Then, you use the logic of that solution to build a new, smaller one. Then you realize, hey, I can do this forever, which creates this impossible infinite sequence. And that paradox, that absurdity, is what proves your original assumption had to be wrong from the very start. So, let's take this recipe and put it to the test. We're going to use it on a super famous problem, proving that the square root of 2 is irrational. This is a mathematical truth that, as legend has it, the ancient Pythagoreans considered a dangerous, forbidden secret. All right, step 1. We assume the exact opposite of what we want to prove. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that the square root of 2 plus is a rational number. That means we can write it as a fraction, p over q. And, this part is absolutely crucial, we're going to assume we've already found the simplest, most reduced version of that fraction, where p and q share no common factors. Now, if our assumption is true, we can do a little bit of algebra and something really interesting pops out. It turns out that the top number of our fraction, the p, has to be an even number. There's just no way around it. That's the first domino to fall. Okay, but if we follow that thread just one step further, it leads to something that should set off massive alarm bells in your head. It means the bottom number, our q, must also be an even number. Now the second domino has tipped over, and we are heading straight for a paradox. And here's the crucial point. Wait a second. If both p and q are even, that means our original fraction wasn't in its smallest terms at all. We could have just divided both numbers by 2 to get a new, even smaller, even simpler fraction. Get what just happened? Our assumption that we started with the absolute smallest fraction just forced us to create an even smaller one. So, what does that actually mean? It means we've broken math, because we can take that new, smaller fraction and run the exact same logic on it to get an even smaller one, and then do it again and again forever. We've created an infinite freefall, an endless staircase going down, and that's impossible. The ladder has no bottom. The only way out of this logical mess is to admit our starting assumption was dead wrong. The square root of 2 simply cannot be a rational number. Boom. Now, if you've done some math proofs, you might be thinking, hey, this feels kind of like mathematical induction, just running in reverse. And that's a really common thought, but it's super important to see that they are actually very different tools. Here's the main difference. Induction is like climbing up a ladder. You prove the first step is solid, and then you prove that if any step is solid, you can always get to the next one up. Infinite descent is about magnitude. It's about showing that the ladder you thought existed actually has no first step at all. It's an illusion that just spirals down into an impossible infinity. Induction builds up, descent tears down. So why are we getting so excited about a proof technique from the 1600s? Well, because its influence is just massive, its elegant way of thinking is still a major part of how mathematicians explore the world of numbers today. And this was no one-trick pony. Fermat himself used this exact method to prove a critical piece, the n=4 case, of his legendary last theorem. And the core idea of descent has evolved. It's the conceptual engine behind some really advanced modern math, like studying solutions on these wild shapes called elliptic curves, work that is actually fundamental to the cryptography that keeps our digital world secure. So you see, Fermat's method is so much more than just a clever trick. It's a whole way of thinking. It's a tool for hunting down hidden, logical impossibilities. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other ideas that seem perfectly reasonable on the surface would actually collapse into their own infinite descent if we only knew where to give them the first push?